Marxism can certainly be considered a major turn in the study of history and how we approach major turns in history itself. Formulated first in 1848 in Marx and Engels' The Communist Manifesto, the approach is unique in how it views history as a series of class struggles, each major event being a result of class conflicts between the ruling and working classes, with economic factors also being central. Pictured here is Marx himself, who once remarked that philosophers have so far interpreted the world, the point is to change it. There is no doubt that Marx changed history with his own writing. From the Russian Revolution to Mao's China, Marxism has provided a new way to study history, but also new ways to make it. Indeed, as Eric Hobsbawm has rightly said in his book, How to Change the World, Marx and Marxism, 1840 to 2011, 70 years after Marx's death, 1/3 of the human race lived under regimes ruled by communist parties which claimed to represent Marx's ideas and realise his aspirations. Along a similar strain to what Herbert Butterfield termed Whig history, Marxism sees history as a means to an end. There is a continuous and an unwavering structure to history that has been and will be followed. Here defined is the so-called Whig view of history that was particularly popular during the 19th century when Marxism was first introduced. And here is the Marxist interpretation of history, progressing from primitive communism to slave societies to feudalism to capitalism and then onto socialism and communism, which at the time the Communist Manifesto was published, he believed would follow, very similar to Whig beliefs that society would progress to become increasingly democratic, liberal and enlightened. However, of course, the Marxist view of history is made up of such a neatly divided chronology, and it's been criticised heavily for its reductionist outlook. Can history not deviate from this path? Does this mean that history itself has no free will to change where it pleases? Are we determined to follow this path to a specified end? To introduce Marxist historiography appropriately, some of the key historians within the field are important to mention. Christopher Hill, E.P. Thompson, Eric Hobsbawm, Donna Torr, Rodney Hilton, and many others have released hugely influential works through the Marxist perspective on history. Christopher Hill, for example, who released The English Revolution in 1640, stated boldly that the Civil War was a class war in which the despotism of Charles I was defended by the reactionary forces of the established church and conservative landlords. Parliament beat the king because it could appeal to the enthusiastic support of the trading industrial classes in the town and countryside. This interpretation, of course, differs greatly from the conventional views of the English Civil War, where historians have focused on the autocratic individual character of Charles I as the instigator of bloodshed. But Hill suggests that Charles I is in fact just symbolic of the class divide and ultimate conflict. E.P. Thompson, author of the renowned The Making of the English Working Class, uses his works to, as he has said, rescue the poor stockinger, the Luddite cropper, the obsolete hand-loom weaver, the utopian artisan, from the enormous contention of posterity. While English history has tended to focus on the monarchy, on high-profile political parties and such, Thompson attempts to refocus on the working class, attempting to rescue them from being forgotten by contemporary historians and the general public because of replacement histories that have taken over because they are more important. This need to uncover the lives of the working class has been criticised, however. Michael Fisher has commented that individuals become irrelevant because in the long run they are irrelevant. Power becomes the right of those who have history on their side, and obedience or ineffectual resistance the lot of everyone else. They cannot be uncovered, according to some historians. Eric Hobsbawm's The Age of Revolution has also been a majorly influential contribution to Marxist historiography. He comments on the importance of money in relation to social standing as a criticism of the capitalist system, typically of Marxist rhetoric. He says, on the whole, however, it was accepted that money not only talked but governed. all the industrialists had to get to be accepted among the governors of society was enough money. Of course, this would help historians understand in greater depth the suppression of the working classes by the ruling classes, and why in this historical stage of capitalism the working classes revolted. To explore the impact of Marxist historiography further, it is important to see what trends Marxism set off amongst historians, and why these trends have become so impactful on our understanding of and our study of history in the current age. As mentioned before, through E.P. Thompson, Marxist history has encouraged the development of what has been termed history from below, essentially viewing history through the perspective of those deemed the lowest in society, which has often been the working classes and peasants. It has also helped to encourage more historical writing on the oppression of women and people of colour, and how because of this oppression they have themselves become their own class in history. With the socialist-leaning Black Panther groups of the 60s, the exploration of post-colonial history, and the second and third waves of feminism, Marxist history provided a place for a history of the oppressed to be studied and understood. And simultaneously, as numerous world powers had experienced Marxist-inspired revolutions of their own in the 20th century, it also encouraged comparative global histories to understand why capitalism pervaded in the West and communism, particularly in the East. In conclusion, and to assess Marx's overall impact, it would certainly be difficult to dispute his vast and incomprehensible impact on the world and how history is studied. His ideas have endured generations and have inspired the study and uncovering of histories that have previously been neglected or ignored. This is my bibliography of all the works I've used from the historians I have mentioned, and the bits of criticism of these historians I have mentioned also. And I believe that these are some of the most influential books and historians within Marxist historiography to this day. Thank you for listening.